I'm so excited to introduce our next guest. It's Alessia Minkus, the wonderful Alessia. She is a serial entrepreneur, award-winning business owner, international speaker and trainer. Originally from Rome in Italy, and today spends half her time in California. Between her and her partners, they've started over 60 different companies, generating over $2 billion in sales. Her main business today is called Industry Rockstar, which is currently touring Europe and very shortly Switzerland, helping business owners create the results and success they want. She runs that business together with her husband, Kane Minkus, and also Kevin Harrington, who is the original shark on the hit American business show Shark Tank. Now, this episode is packed with some great advice, including things on sales, partnerships, and what to look for in a mentor. Now, she also reveals why Italian women are great to date or marry. Let's have a listen.
This is the Expat Business Hero podcast, and I'm your host, Alex Congdon.
So welcome, Alessia. Lovely to have you on the show.
Hi, Alex. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure and honor to be here today.
I really appreciate you being here. I know you're in the middle of a global tour of business training, so really appreciate you having the time to be with us. So, Alessia,
you.
I like to start just like a bit of fun, a few quick rapid fire questions just to get us into the flow of things. So, Now I'm married to an Italian, you're Italian, and so I've got some questions about Italian women here. So the topic is reasons to love Italian women, and I've got three or four questions, rapid fire. So you give me your true or false, and perhaps you can explain if they're any further. Okay, are you ready?
That's cool. Ready.
Okay. Number one, you are passionate, sometimes too much for your own good.
Totally true, and my husband would definitely agree with that one.
Okay. Food is the essence of life.
Yes. Food, let's say not only food, but food is part of the essence of life.
Okay. Family comes first, always.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And again, my husband would totally agree with that. Having now lived with me for 6 years, he has learned that that's definitely a big truth in our family.
Okay. And final one, your parties will never disappoint. Are you a party person?
That's right. That's right. Well, especially because if you put passion and food and family together, parties are always a success. So yes, then, when you have a husband and he's a musician, you add music to that mix. And now every party comes to life totally with food and passion and music and family. Like, it's a huge thing.
Great. Okay. We got that cleared up. I think, thanks so much. Okay, so Alessia, listen, there I am. I'm a business owner, right? And I've hit a brick wall with my business. Now, surely I can just go on Mrs. Google and find the answers. Why do I need to hire a business mentor?
That's a great question. And actually, a question that I think, I hear almost every other weekend, since almost every other weekend we do, one of our 3-day business trainings around the world. And anytime we do them, we meet, anything between 300 and 500 people per weekend. And they're all business owners, and they're all in that exact situation where they say, I'm stuck and I will figure it out by myself. And I was like that as well, I must admit, many, many years ago when I actually was running my first business, and I did hit a brick wall. And I wasn't even just stuck. I was really like driving that into the wall. And I thought, well, I will just ask for help and support and advice to people around me. It would be free. We didn't quite have Google at that time, but, we had friends and family. And therefore it was like, well, let's see how they can help me, right? And I went that route myself. And that's how I know that route does not work. Now, why? Well, the main reason is that Google, just like friends, families, etc., even successful business owners around us, if they have not spent actually time in understanding how they created their success and creating models that they can then give to others so that other people can apply them and have the same success, their experience alone is not as useful as I've learned myself. just because, for a lot of business owners, and that's something that actually was discussed very recently. I discussed that with Sir Richard Branson when we flew him to Singapore, and we were, we did a big event here in Singapore where I am right now. Well, last year we flew Sir Richard Branson here, and we had a big event with 7,000 people. And as we were doing the event and we were, getting ready for the interview, we were in the green room and we were talking. And he was sharing with us that, he really loves what we do. And of course, we were saying, well, we love what you do. I mean, you're a very successful business owner. He was saying, well, yes, I am, but I'm really not passionate and not really, I didn't spend any time in understanding how to teach others. So I don't feel like that's my calling. And hearing somebody so successful actually, openly admit that is something that was really impactful for me, because that's the main thing, the main difference between having a mentor and just having advice from Google or from people around us. It is that mentors have spent time packaging their knowledge and their experience into models, proven systems and strategies that they can just transfer to others and have them follow them to create the same success.
Okay. So you've got this really nice quote I see on one of your websites, and that is, a mentor is someone who sees more talent and ability within you than you can see in yourself. So what is it that you see in the people that you mentor that they can't see themselves?
Well, that's right. Well, every time we sit across, one of our students, we have these conversations where actually one of our favorite lines, one of our favorite answers to have from our students is, I never thought about that. That's one of our favorite things to have as an answer. And that's because when we engage with business owners, with our students, with our mentorship students, etc., we engage in understanding, what is the future version of themselves that they want to create. That version where they already have the success that they want to create, the impact in the world. They are helping the people that they want to help. And so from that place, we start to engage with them. We hold them to that vision of themselves that they can't even see yet. They want it, but they don't see it clearly yet. And that's why they can't achieve it. So we see it for them. And therefore, we can then help them create a pathway to that. Now, I remember many years ago now when I was living in Australia, and actually it was my start as an expat business owner. And with Kane, with my husband, we started a coaching business. Now, I moved to Australia, little background, and Kane was already speaking and training from stage since several years. Now, I moved there, and although I had several successful companies that I had started and grown myself, I had never been in the coaching and mentoring business. So it took me a little while to actually figure that all out and, getting into that. In the meantime, I was trying to figure out the language because I was kind of learning English, which I had a very, a very basic level of English, let's say. So it took me a little while, but then I really, I got really passionate about this industry, and I got passionate because I started to see how, people were getting results, which was very exciting for me. So we started a coaching business together. And I remember one day I was in Perth, we were at an event, and I had a conversation with an amazing woman. Her name is Marnie. And when I met Marnie, she was running a marketing company in Perth. She's been very successful already. She had been, out in the UK and in the States, working for marketing companies in the past, working for Sir Richard Branson in person. And then she went to Perth and she created her own marketing company. And when I met her, the company was doing well. I mean, I wouldn't say it was super successful, but it was doing well enough, like something around, $250,000. And she found herself in a weird spot where she found herself comfortable. And so she knew she wanted something more, but she couldn't quite define what that was, which was what was really keeping her stuck, because she kept kind of, going around in circles, trying to create something that she couldn't see. And it was very frustrating for her. So we had this long conversation. I remember, having this conversation. And as she told, it was completely clear for me. Like I could see her already. And, I started to engage with her from the place that I could see for her, which was her inspiring other women and helping other women, creating brands and just transferring her knowledge, which she was very passionate about marketing. So I knew that was something that was really dear, close to her heart, but engaging that in a different way where she was actually training women, inspiring them, empowering them with tools. And she couldn't quite see it yet. So we had this conversation. She didn't understand where we came from with that conversation, but nonetheless, it kind of touched her heart close enough where we started to work together. And actually, we started to work together privately. And to this day, she's running a very successful training, mentoring, coaching company in Australia where she actually helps women create their brands. So she puts all her experience, of the past decades in service of helping now, women building their own brands. She's extremely happy. She wrote her book. She started to speak internationally. And every time we connect, she tells me, you knew it before I even knew it. And that's exactly what I think a coach and a mentor does is, we can read, between the lines and create that vision and hold it and create a pathway, even more a step-by-step pathway to actually achieve that vision so that it can become reality.
So you're like one of those fortune tellers you see on the streets of Rome saying,
that's right.
See your future.
Yeah, that's what I learned.
They always used to stop me. They always used to stop me and say, come and sit down. And I was always a bit afraid, but never mind. So I think then for businesses like this, one of the biggest challenges is sales. And I know you're really passionate about sales. You've got a particular approach to it. But one of the things that I hear a lot is that people they're afraid or reluctant because they don't want to come across as being too salesy. This kind of hang up that people have. So what approaches are working well today for you in that area?
That's right. Well, I hear that a lot. So thank you for this question because it is something I'm very passionate about. No, I am very passionate about that because understanding sales at a deep level changed my life and changed my confidence and changed my power, I would say, in my life. So I'm very passionate about kind of giving that back in the way of training others in these distinctions. Now, most people are afraid of sales, or they are kind of a little bit, they find it a little bit icky because they are afraid of being pushy. They're afraid of, they're afraid of being in an egocentric conversation. A lot of people equal sales with being self-centered. Like, I'm there to ask something for myself. Mm-hmm. And of course, that doesn't work, especially since, in the new paradigm of business that we are actually, seeing growing right now, it's all about helping others. And so when we need to step into a conversation that feels self-centered, it doesn't quite work. Now, the fact is that when we are in a sales conversation, the way I see it and the way I train, our students is that it's actually one of the biggest opportunities for us to help others. Because really, when somebody talks with you and arrives to have a meeting with you about your services, your products, etc., chances are that they really want the results that you can help them create. They really want that for themselves. The reason they don't have it yet is because there is some fears and concerns that are blocking them. So sales is the first opportunity that we have to help them step into that future version of themselves and really say yes to what they want, so that then we can work with them, long enough to help them create that in reality. So what works in sales right now? Well, we like to say all the time that authenticity sells. And I think that's one of the biggest shifts. In the past, there has been this, salespeople have been normally a little bit fake, very inauthentic, very putting on this almost a mask where everything was happy and easy. And instead, authenticity is really the biggest key for us to sales. Like, sharing both the, your concerns, your feelings, your visions, and listening to your clients. And so listening where they're scared, what they're scared about, what is concerning for them. And then together finding solutions. It's really a problem-solving kind of conversation. So I can say that some of the deepest conversations that I have today and that I've had in the last few years are sales conversations. Now, when I say it really changed my life, one thing that was really impactful for me was, I was absolutely scared about sales myself. Like, I was horrible at it for many, many years, which is why my company wasn't going that well. So when my first business coach came in, when I finally decided to actually go and hire somebody that professionally came in and started to help me shift all the things that were holding me back and therefore were not allowing the company to grow. The first thing we worked on was sales, because of course he recognized immediately that, if we wanted to create, to grow the company and to have a healthy company, the first thing we need to work on was sales. So when he came in, we worked on that immediately. And I remember my feeling, like how I felt empowered once I understood that, one, I could for myself always create whatever I needed, now the money, but the opportunities that, I needed, or that my family needed, that my business needed, so that I could take care of myself, of my family, of my, of my business, in the people, of all the people that were working there. That changed my approach completely, because I felt, really empowered that anytime anything would happen and I could actually create whatever we needed. And the second way it changed my life was that I got really connected, what a big impact I could make, or our company could make, by helping people in that conversation. So it was a huge change from really, feeling almost ashamed while I was in a sales conversation, to instead feeling empowered and excited and inspired to help somebody else move through their fears.
But do you think that approach also helps people with this so-called imposter syndrome? When people are starting up in business and maybe they're trying to train or coach other people and they don't feel worthy, who am I to give my knowledge? Does that sales approach help in that as well?
Well, it helps in the sense that, it opens up to authenticity. And now, we all have doubts, we all have fears, we all have concerns. And for somebody to be open and have that space to actually even just communicate it, even if with their clients, saying, that's how I feel, it opens up much deeper conversations, a much deeper connection. Some people say people connect through drama. I don't think that's the case, but I do think that when we can show up as super happy, everything is perfect, etc., it does comes across as we're hiding something. We all have some small or big fears and concerns. And so instead of hiding them, instead of rejecting them, it's about bringing them on with us for the ride, so that we can actually, share them with the people, feel empowered by having them, feel so empowered that we can share them, we can have a conversation and use them as a way to connect deeper with another human being, instead of pulling us apart. So it definitely helps. Now, when somebody starts, and we have a lot of our students that start, now you were talking specifically about starting a coaching business, starting a mentoring business, and having that fear of not being worthy, not being enough, not being able to help. And, we very often deal with that with our students. Now, the funny thing is that while we are so concerned about how worthy we are, there are people out there that are dying to have our help. Yeah. So my suggestion is always, to really take that spotlight, instead of constantly putting it on us, putting it on our, the people that are out there looking for our help. And so whenever we have, students that are in this conversation, we ask them to go, interview people in their community and, interview them about how valuable their expertise or their help or their support can be to others, because we are always the hardest judges on ourselves. So whenever we start to ask others, we discover sometimes that there is so much value that we bring to the world, and we were just not connected to that.
So you grew up in Rome, and I spent a few years in Rome myself many years ago, and in a family also of business owners. There was a family business there. So how did having business and business ownership in your family influence the choices as you grew up?
That's a great question. Thank you. How did that shape my my upbringing? Well, it shaped it in a few different ways. Meaning, so first of all, my parents did have a business, but they did not have the know-how and the systems to turn. They started their business from a passion, and then they didn't have quite the systems to turn that passion into a real business. And by real business, I mean a business that is leveraged and has some automation and, kind of roles even without the business owner constantly doing everything. So on some levels, they really created a job for themselves. Now, my dad specifically, because he was so involved in the business, and so he was constantly working and was constantly doing everything. So I must admit that when I was really young, the first things that I saw about business did not inspire me at all. I thought business is this, like being so busy that, my dad would not have time to spend with me. He would not have time to spend with my mom. He would not have time to spend on his health and fitness and well-being. And so I was very uninspired by that. And I actually remember at some point making the choice. I said, I will never, ever, ever own a business in my life because it's not what I want.
Yeah.
Now, of course, this changed over time. I actually stepped into my family business at some point because my dad had a heart attack. And so he needed to take time off off the business, of his life, really, just to recover. And I stepped in, totally naive at 19 years old, not even knowing what I was doing. But I did. And it was a real roller coaster. But one thing that created all that, on top of the success, and we ended up tripling the company in just a few years, creating a company that was turning over 30 million euro a year. But on top of that, one of the most valuable things is that it really got me closer with my parents over time. It got me to understand their choices and some of their challenges and struggles, at a much deeper level. And I think that as business owners, we kind of grew together in that time, because I ended up hiring, my first business coach, and through him, I started to explore all these conversations and bring them to the business, and therefore bring them to my, parents. And it was a very interesting growth that we went on together. Now, on the other hand, I must say that my mom has been one of my biggest role models growing up, because she's always been a very strong woman. She was running the business with my dad and at the same time having me. So I am extremely grateful for that role model of a strong woman, kind of having them both, business and family. And so that totally shaped my life. And that's one of the reasons why I got in the business that I'm in today.
Now, partnerships, that's the thing which I think connects me a little bit to your business today. So you love great partnerships, the whole concept. This is what I've heard you say before. So how did you meet your current business partner, who's also your husband? We always get his we always get his version when he does his speeches. He gives his version.
So in my businesses, I have had partnerships in over 35 different countries. Yeah. And yet, definitely the most important one is the partnership that I have with my business partner today, him being my husband. How did I meet him? Well, that's a funny one, because my business coach that I was talking about before ended up literally dragging me to a business event where I did not want to go at that time. I thought it was a complete waste of my time and I didn't want to go there. And he said, come on. I feel like that's the right thing for you. And, when your coach says, you need to do something, you just do it. I was just, I trusted him. And so I ended up at that business event that I must admit was extremely boring. It was right. It was boring. And I thought many times about leaving, but I thought, well, I'm here, I wasn't alone. So I thought, well, let's stay and just see, let's get the most out of it. It was a multi-speaker event. So there were many speakers, kind of coming on stage and sharing their things. Now, during that event, it was mostly men and they were all very boring. So by the time, Kane came on stage, I was very, very bored and I was ready to leave. But I had a friend that was with me there. And just before their presentation, she looked at the program for the day and she said, these guys are coming on stage. I want absolutely to hear from them. And I said, who are they? I have no idea. She says, oh, they're super cool. They are two guys. They're in their 30s. They're already, traveling the world and speaking on global stages. And, they're super cool. You will love them. So I stayed. And then they arrived on stage. And I remember being completely kind of mesmerized by Kane specifically, which I didn't even know who was whom. So I had no idea about his name either. And so, they were doing the presentation. I really loved what they were doing. I loved what they were teaching, and I loved the way they were teaching it. So I was really very inspired by that. And at some point during the presentation, now, if you will come to one of our events, you will know that one of our, one of the things that we do that really sets us apart from other speakers is that we are almost never on stage. We are always in the audience. And that's how Kane was already at that time. So by walking around the audience, he ended up delivering a big part of the presentation, standing just in front of me, like literally standing in front of me and watching me in the eyes. And so I was completely hooked by that. But then he left. So at least as long as I knew, he had left. He went back to Australia. And at that time, I didn't quite know, what his situation was like. So I thought we would never meet again. So my business coach at that time, who had completely, he had seen what was happening, was, kind of made fun of me a little bit for, being so inspired by them. But I said, well, they left, they left, it's gone. And the day after, we went back to this event, second boring day, and we were in a hallway having lunch. And at some point, my business coach came to me and, running and said, you gotta see that, like there is something you need to see. And I said, what's going on? And he showed me that Kane and Jeff actually came back. So Kane at that time was presenting with his old business partner, Jeff. And apparently they had offered a training, but a lot of people had questions about the training itself. So they came back this next day to answer all these questions. And that's when we actually really met, because they were in this hallway answering all these questions. And when I saw them, I was very happy. And my friend asked me, show me which one is this very inspiring guy. And so in order to show her, we walked by them. And so Kane saw me and he asked me to join him. Now, he asked me to join by waving me over, which in Italy, it's not the way you actually interact.
You don't do that, no.
So my first reaction was like, I'm not going to a man that calls me like I would be a dog.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely not going there. But then I thought, maybe I should. Come on, my friend was like, come on, he's surrounded by people. He can't do anything else. Let's go, let's go meet him. So I went, and my English was so basic, like it was really broken. So it was very difficult to communicate, but we kind of managed to communicate well enough to exchange our contact information. And so I went back into the room, and 10 minutes later, I received this first email. And from there, we started to text, and immediately, Kane is always,
fast mover, right?
Man of fast action. So we started to write and Skype and WhatsApp and, just communicate. And he flew back to Sydney. So we had no chance at that time to connect. But we met again 8 weeks later in London. And we can say that essentially, we were together. We are together since then.
That's amazing. Well, there you go. Just goes to show if you're open to meeting people when you're out on these
That's right.
business events,
in our events today, Kane always asks who came here because they thought they would meet somebody and fall in love. And everybody laughs. And they don't know that that's actually how we met. So it's actually a very authentic expression for us.
Now, you mentioned there that you're in Australia and you live in California today. So what's been some of the ups and downs of living and working, so far away from your original home?
That's right. Thank you. Yes, I do live in California. We actually split our time these days between California and Italy. And I lived in Australia before. When I met Kane, he was living in Australia. So I moved there shortly after, our meeting. Now, one of the biggest challenges, when we talk about ups and downs, has been, I would say, two main challenges have been language. when I moved, my English wasn't that good. And I wasn't especially ready for all the different accents that I would meet, like, Australian accent. And then we would go to New Zealand. And for our business, we traveled so much. We were literally in a different country every single week. And so every single week we were dealing with a different accent. People were all speaking English, but everyone with a different accent. It was extremely difficult for me to, understand and communicate. And the second one was really cultural differences, which I think every expat has possibly, faced at some point in their life. I remember one single thing that was really like mind-blowing to me. So in Italy, the way we have to get to know each other, socialize, and kind of, really get closer to another human being is we come together as we feel comfortable, we start to share more about ourselves. So when somebody starts to share about themselves, is seen as, a sign that there is connection and they feel comfortable enough to share that. And so it's a good sign and it's a good way. We're not that used to meet somebody and ask them a lot of questions. It's actually almost a sign of, being a little bit disrespectful, a little bit invasive in the way we interact. Now, in the States, it's completely the opposite. So everybody, they get together, and the way to actually get to know each other is asking each other a lot of questions. And if you instead talk about yourself, is seen as self-centered. So completely different, right? So the first time I met my in-laws, I arrived and very respectfully didn't ask a lot of questions, but actually showed them that, I was having a beautiful time by sharing things about myself. And they instead were asking me so many questions that I felt like, oh my gosh, like that, it feels like really like, an interview or something like that. It didn't feel very warm to me. On their side, the fact that I was talking about myself felt very rude. And they were like, why is she not asking us more questions? That's, this would show that she has interest in us. So complete misunderstanding on the first meeting.
Yeah, that was a good start, wasn't it?
That's a good start, right? That's what you want. So that's where I learned that there are very different ways to communicate. And, we always try to be connected to the intentions, but sometimes we need to learn how to translate these intentions into, acts and behaviors that other people can interpret and understand the right way. So that was a big one for me, I think. Really just the social interaction, both in personal and in business life, that was very different between, Italy, where I grew up, and Australia and the States, which are actually pretty similar the way they interact.
So, Alessia, I asked a few of the listeners to say, look, have they got any questions for you? And we had a couple that came through. And yeah, they did. And so one of them asked, where do you find the energy to do so much?
Oh, the energy. That's a great question. Thank you. We actually get it almost every other weekend at one of our events. Somebody asks us, where do you find the energy? We are very busy. We run events in over 26 different countries right now. We mentor hundreds of people around the globe every year. Where do we find the energy? Well, I think we find it in a few different places. One is definitely, our mission. Like, we feel like we are living our purpose. We are living our mission. We are living our passion every day when we do what we do. And that's something that gives us a lot of energy. I mean, would we do something different? I don't think we would have the same energy. But, the people that we work with, we are very passionate about them because, first of all, we are lucky enough to be able to really handpick people that we want to work with. And so everybody that we work with, we are, we chose them, we love them, we are extremely excited about working with them, and that gives us a lot of energy. The second thing is that, we are able to actually design our life exactly the way we want it. That's why we wanted, to be business owners. Like, we would never be able to live inside of somebody else's structure. So although for somebody our structure might be intense, for us it's exactly what we want. We design it just the way we want. Like, we are now, here in Singapore, and we do events here because we love the city. We choose the cities in the world that we absolutely love spending time with, that we resonate with the community, and our calendar, although very intense, brings us exactly in the cities that we love. and with the people that we love. So that's another great way. The third thing is that, we're very connected. Again, when I say it's our mission, what I mean is that the people that we work with these days are essentially, they are exactly in the same place where we were years ago, when we hadn't quite figured out this game called business yet. We didn't have all the tools and strategies that we have today. And we remember very well the struggle that we had at that time. So whenever we are working with a student, whenever we are, delivering an event, we are very connected to the impact that we can make in their life, because that's the impact that those strategies made on our lives. Now, we put them together working with dozens of coaches and mentors over the years. And so today what we do is taking all these things that we learned by, mistakes and, error and trials, and, even from our successes and from our mentors, from our coaches, from partners around the world, etc. We just put them together into our events, so that we can empower business owners and save them time and save them money, because for us, it costs us a lot of time, money, a lot of effort, a lot of, failure, etc. And so it's our mission to save that time, money, effort, pain, etc., to other business owners. So we're very connected to our mission. Now, that's more of the emotional side of how we find energy. If I should talk about more of the, physical part, we're extremely picky in what we eat. We are complete health nuts. And that definitely, helps us with our energy. So we are picky about what we eat. We are picky about what we don't eat. We're picky about what we drink. We're very, we try to get good nights of sleep every time. So we are very, very focused on our health. But I think that the main part is really about, being so connected to what we do and the impact that it produces in the world, that really, kind of inspires us every morning when we wake up. When we say we choose our students, we choose the people that we work with, that's, it's literally like we meet every single one of them. We come together with our team. We choose, who is the best fit for the program. And once we take them on, we talk about them, at lunchtime, and we might meet them for dinner. Like we love the community. It's not just work for us. It's really creating a community all around the world and empowering them with tools and techniques so that they can impact their community, and therefore together we can impact the world.
Wow, great answer. And the bit I got that resonated with me was do what's be on mission, and then the energy,
totally.
which is huge. One more question from a listener who, and you've already partially answered this already, but the question was, what would be your top sales advice for women? Now, you talked about sales in general, but is there something specific for women that you'd like to say?
There is actually. Women are around the world. Whenever we work with students, with business owners, we actually find that women are more scared than men about sales, or maybe they are just more open about that. But, the interesting thing is that the statistics tell us that a trained woman outsells a trained man 1 to 7. So why are we so scared about sales if we are so good? That is an interesting, observation.
Yes.
What we find all around the world is that although women are very good at the relational part, so we're very good at creating the relationship, at connecting with another human being, we are possibly more naturally inclined to just share and listen, which are some of the main characteristics needed to be good in sales. And yet we struggle with sales because we are really scared about asking for what we need. So the part where we fall apart as women is the call to action. We're very scared about asking for the deal. We kind of shied away about talking about the money. We kind of just want to help others. Now, the main advice that I have is to, instead of thinking like I want to help others and therefore I want to do it for free because that's how you help others, let's think about sustainability in business. If we keep doing things for free, over time, we get burned out. And this means that either women get, kind of depressed and frustrated and, they end up getting a job because they don't have, the financial resource to do it, or they get just so burned out emotionally that they end up not doing it anymore. And when this happens, everybody loses. So my suggestion is, let's create a sustainable business where we can help others as we help ourselves. Now, business is an interesting paradox where we need to hold two realities. We say we are in business to help others, which is exactly true. And that's one of our philosophy. Like, everybody's in business. A business is a way to help others. True, extremely beautiful as well. But we need to hold the other side of the paradox as well, which is we are in business for ourselves. Our business needs to be a pathway to our dreams as well. It needs to give us the experience that we're looking for. Now, it's not always money, and it's never just money, but it's an experience that we're looking for, whether this is, fulfillment, whether this is, feeling, kind of like what we were saying before, that we are living our mission. These are all part of it. As part of it, there needs to be like creating security for ourselves and our kids. Because if we feel like we are not creating that, at some point we will need to put our time into something that is creating it. And very often women end up then, going back to taking a job because they feel like, well, my passion is helping others, but I can't make money with that. And I need money. I mean, money is one of the things that we need among many others. So instead of having this dichotomy, I either help people or I make money. Let's create an integrated model where we can help people while we make enough money to create, a solid and secure business for ourselves and for the generations that will come after us.
Wow. I love how you framed that. I don't think many people would have expected an answer like that. I think it was really, really nice. Okay, Alessia, so what's looking ahead then? What's the future? What are the plans for yourself and the business?
Well, we have all our tours all over the world, and actually we're about to come back to Switzerland. So we will be in Switzerland September 25th through October 1st. We'll be actually in Central Europe, I should say, because we'll be in Zurich, we'll be in Lausanne, we'll be in Geneva, we'll be in Munich, we'll be in Vienna, we will be in Berlin. So we'll be all over Central Europe in between September 25th and October 1st. We're extremely excited to come and meet new business owners, help them, share with them our systems, tools, and techniques, and empower them, just like we have done with thousands of other business owners throughout Switzerland, Austria, and Germany during the past 5 years.
Great. Okay, Alessia, listen, thanks very much for that. I'll put the details below in all the show notes so people can find out more about that tour. I think it sounds very exciting. And I just want to thank you and acknowledge what you do. I think you do an amazing job. And on behalf of all the people that you help, I just want to say thank you. And let's do this again in the future. Maybe we can also have Kane on as well and get his version of how you met.
Of course. You should have his version of our meeting. That would be fun.
just to compare notes. Okay. That's it. Thanks so much and take care.
Thank you so much, Alex. It was a pleasure being with you. So thank you so much for having me.